Thank you very much, Professor Gopal. You'd all agree that now I'm at a loss of words because I can't any longer say fascinated or facilitating. I think much to think about and...
you want to go there? No, just keep this a little closer.
Not going to say much. Much to think about. I think Professor Guru has asked us in many ways to think in terms of our own scholarly practices, and to think in terms of our own... Yeah.
Is it audible?
Yeah.
There's some problem.
To think of our practices as scholars, to think of our institutional practices, what we do within institutional structures of any kind, and of course about our practices in the social and historical world that we are inhabiting today. And in asking all these various kinds of questions about what is an intellectual password, and what is a password, and why do we need one, and who does not need one, he's taken us to a journey where he wants to think about us to think about all these various questions. As I explained earlier, we decided amongst ourselves that we are going to open it to the House first for discussion, so that there is no mediation and you have a direct access to him and your thoughts are free-flowing, and in whatever because there are so many other ways of interpreting the text that he has placed before us. I could well have said that this is a text which is actually asking us to it's a text or a reading in Ambedkar of Ambedkar's writings, his actions, and really presenting as a way of finding that which is the universal claim, but also one which is applicable in a variety of different circumstances and situations which we are not thinking about. For instance, about what it means to be or who needs to be, have an intellectual password, etc. So without further mediation, it is now open for discussion, and I'll try and share some thoughts towards the end. I thought it might take people time to formulate their thoughts, but obviously, as always, JNU surprises us, and I'm glad. Yes, please. Short questions, and we'll take maybe 2 or 3 together, and Professor Guru will answer them, and then we'll have many rounds of that kind. Yes, please.
आगे अभी थोड़ा आवाज नहीं है. That mic is working. Is someone?
Longer. Let's keep it open-ended and see. Don't try our patience too much. Do you want to hear Professor Guru also? Yeah.
So this title itself is an intellectual password. So password, I guess what I understood from it is means something which is needed to confirm a user's identity. So in that sense, if we are needing an intellectual password, we are coming from an identity and we need to confirm it. So in that sense, how do we see that can intellectual scholarship be developed bereft of identities, or it seeks identities within the production of intellectual capital? And also, sir mentioned about that should Bahujans be asking questions to John Rawls, but I see the route to Rawls goes through Spivak, Kaviraj and Chatterjee, so should not we be asking to them? And also this thing about a scholar who is self-referential. So I was reading a paper from CPSS, one of the Sam Point Humorous professor, I must not name, you already know. So he writes about Ambedkar and he quotes Bhikkhu Parekh and not quotes Ambedkar. So what Bhikkhu Parekh has written about Ambedkar, he quotes. And also, can we do without requiring password from the intellectual leaders who are there in the academia? Because they are the ones defining everyone at the bottom and nobody defines them.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, please go on.
Can be imagination and intuition become the base of it?
Yeah. Can be imagination and intuition can become base of intellectual password, if it is become, then can be it says it is a production of knowledge in academia. As I was reading the Umesh Bagade sir, in his positivism, he says ki Phule and Ambedkar, they have the production of knowledge through the imagination and intuition. The Phule, the slavery, and the Ambedkar's reduction in Hinduism, when there is no evidences was there, so they produced through that. So can we consider it as base of intellectual password, imagination and intuition?
So these are clarifications. I have two questions.
I have two questions, and these are in the form of clarificatory questions. The first is that you said, I see some similarities here in terms of what you're saying that intellectual password references should be it should be constitutive, yet we should not be consumed by it. When something similar to what Professor Mahajan had once said in the lecture, that central modern ideas should guide us, but there is a creative mediated past that is also there. So, in post-colonial theory, there is indispensability of modern ideas, yet they are inadequate. So I just want to know, where are we situated on that terrain? Do we share, are we on the same, is the argument on the same lines? That's one clarificatory question that I want to know. The second is, in the middle of the lecture, when you're talking about Rawls and normative theory, you were quite critical of it. But towards the end of the lecture, you were again saying that people, it's fashionable to do social theory and not normative theory. So, where do we, what is Professor Guru's stand on that? What sort of normative theory you want? When you're speaking about injustice, I thought, intuitively I was reminded of Schlar's liberalism of fear. Is that sort of argument that you're invoking, or is it something else? Do we need a negative liberalism where you're saying that we need to protect people from cruelty first, rather than focusing more on personal development or hope or things like that? So these are clarificatory questions. I just want to know what's your stand on those things? Yeah.
I might answer them for you.
Yeah,
That's also possible.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So I think, thank you for fascinating presentation.
These I use it, yes.
Do you think that password is something that enables you to look at the things from a perspective? Normally, what do we keep as our password? We also forget our passwords. And also we are asked to change our passwords quite frequently. And that's very symbolic, I think. Do we not really keep changing the password, that is, keep changing our positions to enter into a domain of knowledge, to see it from different perspectives, so that we, when we are creating some universal, we always also reply or engage with other interpretations, possible other interpretations. So that will make it more creative then. But then what is the deciding factor on that? If we keep changing passwords, and what would be our source for judgmental rationality? For instance, when Ambedkar is writing on Marx or Buddha, or Marx and Buddha, whatever, I think he's changing his password. He has Marx as his password at some stage, it looks like. Then he looks for new password. Now, what would be the source of making a judgment on Ambedkar himself? How shall we make a judgment on Ambedkar, whether Buddha or Marx? And that will also allow us to grow beyond Ambedkar, if that is needed, in new circumstances. How do we do that?
Yeah. My friend is from CPS, obviously, and he has a close reading. The first question that you asked me is about confirming the identity. Do we require password or not? Yes, we require. And I think password has a bearing in regulating, formulating our identity. Our identity is identity which is not cocooned into something which becomes really very narrow. So suppose I am an empiricist. So my identity is confined to that empiricism. So I collect data, I collect it and keep it to myself. And you can always say, and rather arrogantly, look at my data is self-authenticating. It really doesn't require any theoretical representation. It speaks for itself. As a social scientist, or maybe as a theorist, you cannot take this position. Your identity is linked up to your ways of handling data. I'm just taking one immediate example, which is very close to our intellectual experience. But you should also have an ambition. I really require some kind of abstract concept or terminology to say that this data actually also amplifies my identity from being a, as I mentioned, empirical Shudra to somebody else who can also elevate it to an abstract level. And for that you require reason to become so. We therefore have to outgrow necessarily our own emotions. So you have to go out of your emotions to become reason person, to see that you actually are elevating your empirical data to a theoretical sophistication. So that is the challenge. But that's a difficult challenge. People have to take that challenge. Professor M.N. Srinivas did the same thing. He was an anthropologist, social anthropologist. He said, I don't need to really discover any theory from my empirical details, empirical studies. My empirical studies doesn't require any theoretical representation. But can a woman, a Dalit, a tribal, take this position? From which standpoint, from which location you can take this position? There is a privilege to say that I don't require theory. Because your social station is already privileged, isn't it? And again, there is a very interesting quote from Ambedkar, and I quote Ambedkar all the time because I think it's so relevant. That who requires to hide patronage, generosity? Who has the privilege to hide it actually? It's only the privilege. They don't say, I have done wonders, I have done wonders to you, I have helped you. They don't say that. So that's the point I would like to submit to your consideration. And you can always, I don't want to make any concession to anybody else. John Ross, because he's the one who has actually, it's a reigning concept of social justice. So we studied, and you have been studying, I guess. And so it has become a sovereign concept without which you just can't really make any sense. But there are, Judith Carl actually wrote, Harris Marian wrote, Adorno wrote, and so I would really request to see that, the first chapter in the area of spheres of injustice. Of course, Professor Gurpreet Mahajan said you should, you can read the entire book. So that's the point. Also, I am targeting, you are raising a different point. Should we make concession to those people who are in the US? I can't make any judgment on this because it will be a blasphemy for me to really criticize my own teachers, so I will just avoid that. But I am not consumed by their generosity. I am not consumed. There's a thin line being arrogant and being lenient. So sometimes you have to be lenient sometimes, Yes. So that's one way of responding. Yeah, the other point is intuition. And what happens if you don't have evidence historically available to you on how to develop your theory? But this is the most positivist way of looking at history. And can you really make theory without any evidence? That's the Gurupit Mahajan can really answer that question. But intuitions can really proceed without the help of reason. But what is the future of this? Do they have any do they have any future to become a full-fledged theory? Intuitions are very. My intuitions are source for me to make a theory out of it. But will it get universal validity? Is the question that any person who's working theory from the margin has to answer. And as far as I am concerned, just a minute. I have read Phule and Ambedkar from very close, and even historically. Both of them are actually providing evidence. Evidence, and sometimes Phule actually is taking the help of mythologies. But that also is endorsable. People endorse it, because you don't have evidence, and you can. But that evidence should not really defeat the very purpose of doing theory. It's actually adding up to that. But intuition cannot be the sole source of organizing theory, producing theory. And there is evidence historically available. Although the dominant don't leave any evidence behind, but people discover that they have that historical method to do it, and there are different ways of doing this. So I would say no. We will have to take the help of reason to do theory. Intuitions are fascinating within quotes, but they are not enough. So we require reason. You have to awaken to the force of reason to do sustainable, stable, if not tantalizing, tragic theory in terms of area of injustice. Okay, so Supriya, I think part of the answer will be given by Professor Mahajan. She will answer. But in this principle, yet inadequate. That's the predicament. Yeah. No, you just have a very. What is your approach to colonial modernity? Can you really throw the baby around? Like post-colonialists like to dump the people, dump the whole thing into dustbin. And if you ask somebody, a Bhujan fellow, he will say, "Look, sorry, I can't dump it because there are two angles. One is enabling, the other one is constraining. So enabling should not become. It should empower you, but not overpower you. But what happens, all post-colonial theories actually reject it wholesale. So that's unfair to the whole project. And no, I'm not suggesting. But social justice is also in the background. I am just saying that we need to develop a negative theory of injustice or humiliation or inequality. And the question is, why we have to give credence to those people who actually are the victims of that. We have to appreciate that when the person goes to the police station, a woman goes to the police station, what is the first word that is uttered by that woman? मेरे ऊपर अन्याय हो गया, अन्याय है, फिर न्याय दो. That न्याय may not be adequate. Abhav. In all the language you have this negative vocabulary that comes on priority on your tip of the tongue. So, but that shouldn't go unattended theoretically, which is not done by scholars like thinkers like John. That's my limited John Rawls, though he has blackness and everything at the back of his mind. But in the background, we are keeping social justice in the background, whereas Rawls is keeping injustice in the background. So that is the turn. I know I'm not suggesting Julius Carvis, liberalism of here, no. Now, in the contemporary times, what is the language that will be palatable, amenable to the power. We are actually using the most possible tolerant language. Yet it is not appreciated. So I don't know how Judith Sklar will respond to this. But we should go with that. You know, this is the liberalism fear, no? The later voices, the ordinary voices, Judith Sklar's work. And that has also invited a lot of debate and things like that. But we haven't debated Judith Sklar, classroom. Have we really? I mean, Ram, Shekhar, tell me. Have we debated? Have we discussed? No, we haven't. Ram is there, I'm there, Maninder is there. So we are also fascinated by the affirmative language. That's it. And who are fascinated? What is the? So that's the point. And Professor Maninder Thakur, should we be changing password? Yes, we should. But we should also allow actually, there's one section on what can concept become a password. Yes, they are. I didn't mention that. Concept is a password. Okay. Categories of password, concepts of password. So, should we allow password to change arbitrarily? Undergo change arbitrarily? The answer is no. But there is a historical logic, and I'm using the word logic, which would suggest that look, you allow the category concept to have its own power to perform in the field of concepts that are already embattled. Now, Shudra, Ati Shudra, the concept that we don't use at all at the moment. Bahujan concept is an empty signifier. And I am asking, I am purposely provocative. What is this Bahujan? Tell me. What is the concrete content that it carries with itself so as to motivate people to rally around this concept? Tell me, give me an answer, a convincing answer, I will follow Bahujan. It's an empty signifier. And it is an empty signifier which floats during the election time. Yeah, you think about it. So I think you have to allow the concepts to really have their own. They should battle with other concepts, and they should always meet a heroic death. And they should disappear from the field of contestation. Therefore, I would, how many of us really engage with Phule and Ambedkar? We haven't given any due to their concepts. You have not put them to rigorous performative logic. And so, instead of rushing to finish them off, I mean, your point is very enabling. But I think you have to also reach. Reaching and rushing. These are two modes of actually approaching your emancipatory concerns. But we are in a great hurry, impatient to rush. So, इसके नहीं हो रहा है, इसको खत्म कर दो, उसको खत्म कर दो. No, I think now Dalit word, I'm sorry, just take half a minute on this. What is this word? Is it a word? Is it a concept? What is it? Is it really a universalizable concept? If it is universalizable, is that content universalizable? The form is universalizable, what about the content? So I think you have to see that the content actually sustains. But we have not been able to discover what is the content of this category called Dalit. It is reduced to some negative connotations, depraise, oppress, trample down. This is not Dalit, sorry. We have been intellectually so lazy to quote somebody. So this is a negative, very, very dogmatic password that we are following all these years. I'm sorry, Dalit is not trampled down, oppressed, suppressed, paralyzed. It's a very active, vibrant, politically motivated concept which is actually come up from the struggle of the people. It's not given by any textbook or abstraction. It has not fallen from the top, from the heaven. But we don't change. You just see, I have a challenge. Please do this content analysis. How many people have really given a different connotation to Dalit? The meaning that was given by the Dalit Panthers in 1972. 74 actually, the whole manifesto came. Because we are in a way lazy, intellectually lazy to use the same word without really allowing that word to take its own competitive course. Yeah, that's my.
Okay, one last.
Like regarding that, why at all should we seek universality in discussing something problems that afflict us? For example, and we should seek evidentiary analysis. So, for example, if we seek evidentiary analysis to relocate the problem of the untouchables, and if we recourse to the already existing intellectual scholarship and mythologies, so let me give an example that it is open door that Dronacharya asked Eklavya for his sum, and Eklavya put a statue of Drona and then he learned archery. But मेरे दादा ने बताया था कि मेरे बहुत पहले एक दादा थे, वो एकलव्य को आर्चरी सिखाते थे और द्रोणाचार्य वहाँ पे चीफ गेस्ट बन के आए। जैसे वो डीयू में पढ़ते थे तो जेएनयू से कोई आया चीफ गेस्ट बन के, उन्होंने वहाँ उसे आर्चरी चलाते हुए देखा तो बहुत अच्छा लगा, तो अंगूठा मांग लिया। मैं तो ये मानता हूँ, तो मैं क्यों मानूं कि जो द्रोणाचार्य ने नहीं सिखाया इसका अंगूठा दे दिया? मैं तो मानने को तैयार नहीं।
मत मारो फिर। I mean, नहीं, हम सेइंग आपका पासवर्ड तो होना चाहिए, मगर वो दैट पासवर्ड हैज टू हैव द कैपेसिटी टू बी यूनिवर्सलाइजेबल। ऐसे नहीं चलेगा, क्योंकि contesting has to be done. Contesting has to be done. Without contestation, ये कैसे होगा? It's not arbitrary declaration of your password being universal, reliable, relevant. ऐसे नहीं चलेगा, because there is other, even in Hattadipa, there is other who is actually endorsing. And without endorsement, if you are saying that my password is the best, it won't work. It won't work, because the others will say, okay, you keep your password with you, and I will keep my voice. That won't happen.
Last question.
Thank you, sir. So I have a question regarding the idea of abhav. So with regard to many of the theories which are coming up, or many of the there are critiques coming up of very much universalizable kind of ideas. We see that and most of them, they build upon they take up a very generalizing route, especially in the field, especially with regard to they adopt the negative language, but that negative language is built upon the idea of abhav, that it does not speak to context, it does not speak to the many of the realities. For example, if we look into the idea of majoritarianism precisely builds upon the idea of abhav, that there is a lack, there is a notion of unfulfillment, so we need to challenge the universal theory. For example, the idea of secularism. So that it is a problem. In that sense, if we are building up a theory on negative rights or negative vocabulary, there is also a danger that we hold on to certain kind of negative values or virtues which are easily generalizable, and they appear to take the note of a universal kind of note, for example, in juxtaposition to East and Western kind of theory. So with regard to, for example, in India especially, we see that there is a larger kind of critique which is coming that, okay, secularism is dead. So all this kind of note, I think so, even if we adopt negative language, there is a problem. So how do we look at it? Because you tend to have a very strong position that we need to begin from negative connotation. But the negative connotation and positive connotation, of course, it has difficulty. So we need not begin from there. But where do we really begin in the negative from the negative standpoint?
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to
May I
ask?
ask a question?
Okay.
Thank you. I was just wondering, what do we do when we forget our password? For instance, who has the authority to authenticate the password? Say, like, we have been debating about this concept that Arjan to Dalit, and from post-colonial subject to subaltern, and like who are the people who are deciding upon this authentication itself? So from that identity and confirmation to the power who has this capacity, I was just wondering how this historicity plays an important role, and how the power dynamics also has the role to confirm it. So in this scenario, how do you see the password itself becomes a kind of contested talent, and then decoupling it becomes equally challenging? So from that perspective, how do you see and this contestation and the fight for the authenticity? Thank you.
Okay, go on. Okay. Can we make that the last one? Two? One.
I think I will be audible. I'm from historical studies, and I think the query I'm going to pose could have incidental value. The thing I'm training to be a historian, so the thing when we theoretical framework, the scaffolding we need, especially when I do historical research, I'm modernist, I'm in modern history, so we look at the social theories, for example, Bourdieu or Henry Lefebvre. So when we do our analysis, historical analysis, do we extrapolate them onto our finding? Also, we also take political scientists like Benedict Anderson, for example, or Scott or anyone. So how can we, what the dilemma we face, like this sociological model fit into our historical, this social theory or political modular accounts, that's a bit problematic for us. And next thing, one last thing, I want to see Ashish Nandi. I want to go back to that debate. Like Ashish Nandi, when the Sati claim, the liberal, that's what this liberal and left liberal, especially the post-structuralist or postmodern thinkers or social scientists would play into the hand of communal people. So when we then I see Edward say there is a text, his speech on intellectual, and he take Gramsci and Brenda, and he said you have to adhere to some universal moral thing. That's also how do we see Nandi's take, like how we postmodern deliberate. You understand what I'm saying? This is coming to yeah. Thank you.
I'm assuming this is the last question. So, yeah.
Okay, so chairperson says this is the last question, and my response is also the concluding response. So, on rest of the viewers. Professor Sundar Sarkar, do you want to come and sit here? Why don't you come? Yeah, it's okay? Okay. I forgot the first part of your question because I was looking at Sundar and wanting to make him comfortable in sitting in the chair, but he refused to. So what was the first point? I will start with your last question.
Social theory, the model, the historical finding we come up with, trying to fit into that.
Okay.
Does theory proceed?
That does theory proceed. That does theory proceed. Okay.
Is this sort of a historian?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, as far as I can see, you require a very complex. I would have said, you require history to actually formulate theory. Yeah, that's what that position I will take. But this kind of a historiography and a positive historiography to which he was making a reference, we will also avoid the question of really addressing the very trajectory question of the categories that emerge at a historical time, and what kind of meaning they carry with them when they actually proceed historically with a strong sense of reason. So that, with that emergence of reason, as we see, is actually emerging from the historical experience. We are finding some kind of a language to give meaning to your experience. So you have experience already there. You have to actually formulate it in terms of giving a theoretical articulation to that, conceptual articulation to that, and that's why you are history playing a role in this. So social theory won't emerge. There is a time factor involved in this. No? Can you have a liberal theory in the Greek? No, you can't have it. In the ancient Indian thing, you can have a prototype, but you can't have a proper theory, a full-fledged theory. So you will have a historical experience that would give you some background to make theory out of it. I don't know, it's a debatable point. Somebody say it is possible to do theory without reference to history, abstract thing. Like, Descartes would say, because I don't require history, I don't require society around me. And my capacity to doubt everything would be good enough. So I can mirror my society through the imagery, through the mirror of my mind. I don't require any historical evidence. But that is a bit of arrogance. We don't accept it. So that's the point I would like to submit to your consideration. And about Ashish Nandan and all that, that the debate I will escape, I think. I will have a little ongoing panga with the postmodern, so I will not go into it. So, Ram, I think this is not a negative connotation. I'm just saying that, you were actually saying secularism is a dead. Secularism is dead is a declaration. It's a very hurriedly done judgment that we are actually forcing onto the phenomena of secularism as a phenomenon which is wiped out because of somebody's imagination. But we require the relevance of secularism anyway. So negative abhav, of course, any doing theory on negative experience is an initial condition of doing theory, not the essential condition. The essential is only which has a bright future of progress only in terms of the affirmative language. Otherwise, your own negative experience will be, you will produce a reified theory of injustice or humiliation or inequality. And I do not want to actually, I don't feel fascinated. I have to see that, I transcend this negative, but I have to make sense because there is a promise here. The experience near concepts are so important for me to guide me into larger domain of thinking affirmatively on question of justice. Even justice is not the final vocabulary, and it is little rotty here, the contingency of the. So I think, should we be in search of a final vocabulary? And perhaps I and Sundar give that answer in the second book. Yes, Maitri is one final vocabulary. Is there any word beyond Maitri? If it is there, then I will be very happy to actually adopt that. But as far as I can see, there is no any final vocabulary. The final vocabulary is Maitri as it is actually preached in Buddhism, not even by Derrida or Aristotle. I have my own resources. And that is so profound an option. But for some reason we don't fall back on that. We have Derrida's politics of friendship. And then Sundar said in the morning, for our own thing we put our others' password, we look for the password of that. You have to recover your password which is there available in your own intellectual resources, about which you are ignorant and innocent. So, your recovery, the process of recovering password shouldn't be handed over to somebody to recover that password for you. You have enough autonomy, require agential power to recover that. You may take the help of others, because you are likely to falter because you are already on the way. You are already on the Pagdandi, not on the highway, express highway. You have to be your successes and failures and all the experiences on the Pagdandi. There is uncertainty more in the Pagdandi. I am just using the very local but useful metaphor for making it very clear. So recovery is possible. For recovering, you have to participate yourself. Don't allow it, and don't hand it over to others. Otherwise, dependence will become another another problem of a sort. I think okay. Is there anything I have left out?
About
Okay.
forever, but
Huh?
they were not going to be satisfied.
Okay, but
with
as
it.
far as I'm concerned, I should say thank you to you. Profound questions, and I enjoyed them. And I will come back to speak to you if you permit me to come on fashion, fascination, and fate. But that is for next time. Thank you so much.
After such a